Welcome back, CruiseHols, or hello if you're new to this channel. In this video I'll take you through my top 10 reasons why I prefer repositioning cruises over round trip journeys. When first choosing your next cruise, there's often one question that you need to ask yourself, and that is, should we book a repositioning or a round trip cruise itinerary? By answering that question, many other issues can soon be answered, as it will limit where you can visit, especially if you have a favourite port you want to sail from. It'll also limit the ships you can sail on, and often trim down the number of lines you can sail with. While sounding negative, that can actually be a good thing, as for many cruisers there are just too many options when you first sit down to plan your next adventure. It is likely the case for most cruisers that they will choose a round trip itinerary, especially if you drive into an embarkation port that is near you. But for me and my wife, we prefer repositioning cruises. In this list, I will take you through my top 10 reasons why that is, and hopefully if you've never tried a repositioning cruise before, it may make you think of taking one the next time. So if that sounds of interest for you, don't forget to like and subscribe, and why not leave a comment below the reasons why you choose a repositioning cruise, or the reasons why you've never done a repositioning cruise. My name is Darren, and this is my top 10 reasons why I prefer repositioning cruises over round trip itineraries. On round trips, where ships from multiple lines tend to visit the same ports over and over week in week out, it isn't really anything special for those living at the port for the ship to be in. In some ports, the locals can be less than welcoming, as huge crowds of tourists impact on their everyday life. But when on a repositioning cruise, when you can often be amongst only a handful of ships to visit a port each year, you tend to get a much warmer welcome. We have been welcomed by Newfoundland dogs in Canada, by local dancers in India, and by a water cannon salute in Lisboa. And no matter how many times it happens, it always puts you in a good mood for the day ahead. These special welcomes don't always happen, and it really does depend on the port you visit, but they are something we have only ever had on a repositioning cruise. This one is a great thing about repo cruises for me, but it really does depend on where you are cruising and the ship you are cruising on, and that is why it only ranks relatively lowly on this list. As you are often on longer cruises in more remote places and ships offering reposition routes tend to be smaller, you get a real sense of community on board these types of journeys. This has been the case on all of our repositioning cruises, and has been helped by the fact that ships don't tend to be sold out for these itineraries. Most round trip itineraries will often be offered over and over by the same ship, by a number of ships in the same line, and of course by many other ships of other lines. In regions such as the Med, the Caribbean and the Norwegian fjords, you can have the same 6 or 7 ships offering the same itineraries, all going to the same ports over and over again. That often means every day you are in port is full of the same people you saw before, and everywhere you go is crowded as thousands and thousands of tourists swamp the same tourist attractions. It can be the case that when you're on a repositioning cruise, you also visit those same ports, but you are more often than not more likely to visit out of the way ports when compared to the ships that are doing the same round trip journeys as everybody else. That often can leave you as the only ship in port, and having the space and the lack of queues to really enjoy the port you are in. For some, the thought of a repositioning cruise conjures visions of rough sea days in poor weather, as it was often out of season when ships made these types of journeys, but that just doesn't need to be the case anymore. Repo cruises now operate all year round, and you can experience where you want to, when you want to, including during the best weather periods. That includes cruising cold weather parts of the world such as the Arctic or Patagonia, and warm weather places such as the Mediterranean and the Caribbean. For me, the best option can actually be to choose the option where you get the best of both worlds, where you spend some time of your adventure in a warm weather region before sailing onto a cold one, or vice versa. Imagine starting somewhere like Miami, sailing down the Atlantic coast to Patagonia before ending somewhere like Buenos Aires. You can walk around cities in warm and hopefully dry weather before sailing past the mountains and glaciers of the Chilean fjords, all on the same holiday and the same ship. The restrictions of a round-trip cruise tends to mean you only visit one small area. For example, Iberia, Norway or Northern Europe for cruises out of Southampton, or the Mediterranean for cruises out of Barcelona. Whilst each port you will visit will have its own uniqueness, in all honesty, there will often be more similarities than differences, and that includes the culture of the port you visit. That can be of comfort to many and a major plus for some people, but for somebody like myself, I love to experience different cultures and way of life on holiday, and a repositioning cruise offers that in spades. A great example of that was on the repositioning cruise I did between Iceland and Boston, where we also visited small communities in Greenland and Canada, before heading to the huge city of Boston. Aside from the Icelandic ports perhaps, every port was different from the last, and had a different way of life about them, which made for an incredible adventure. I love to visit new countries and experience what they have to offer, and one of the things that I love about cruising is that you often get to visit many countries on one holiday. When you take a round-trip holiday, you are often a bit more limited into where you can visit, as you will have to make the same trip back and forth to your departure port, and often that can be up to 4 days of your holiday gone just cruising out at sea. When on the repositioning cruise, you just keep heading further and further from where you started, and that often allows you to continue hopping from one country to the next. Not too long ago, repositioning cruises were just a necessity, and mostly came down to transatlantic cruises, Panama Canal cruises, and the need for ships to move between their winter regions and their summer regions. Nowadays, cruise lines know that repositioning cruises can offer incredible adventures, and the chance to have special holidays that can only be experienced on a cruise ship. Repositioning cruises now happen all year round, with some ships only offering one-way itineraries, and that just helps create more and more itineraries for those wanting to take a cruise. With all of those options, it means you have the sort of itinerary that you want to have. So if you prefer port-heavy itineraries, where you visit a different port every day of your cruise, you can do just that. But if you prefer plenty of sea days and maybe a break between every day ashore, you can also do that. Perhaps the best option, for me anyway, is where you have a few port-intensive days in one region, before setting off across an ocean and then exploring another region. Normally when your cruise holiday ends, you either get into your car and head for home, or you go straight to the airport and start your next ordeal of getting back to your home airport. But when you're on a repositioning cruise, your final port will likely be somewhere you have never visited. If you're short of time, you can choose an excursion that takes you around the main site of your arrival port before taking you onto the airport. But to really make the most of my time there, I often add on a post-cruise mini break. This allows you to really experience the final port, see all of the main tourist attractions it has to offer, and maybe even explore the wider region, but best of all, it helps take away that sadness of leaving your cruise, and whilst that part of your holiday is over, another one is just starting, and there is still plenty to look forward to. One thing I love about flying out to start a cruise is spending a few days in the departure city exploring all that it has to offer. Although the ease of simply heading to your nearest major cruise port proves a popular option for many, the limitation that offers just outweighs the ease of getting there over having to deal with airports. But the benefits of heading to a new destination, exploring it and having a holiday before you even start your cruise just makes this a better option personally for me. It does lead to that strange feeling when you're about to set sail on your cruise, a time usually full of excitement and a sense of adventure starting, being one of sadness and feel like a part of your holiday is ending, although that quickly changes and you're soon back to the excitement of setting off on a cruise holiday. When you couple that with the chance to explore another great destination post-cruise, and you have 3 holidays for the price of 1. Well, for slightly more, but you know what I mean. Some people, like me and my wife, love repositioning cruises, while some hate them, and that does limit the market that they often have, which can keep the cost down. As itineraries are often developed around ships needing to move to their next home port, they are on a journey that the ship needs to make, no matter if it's a busy time of the year to be doing the route, or if it's the off-season for that part of the world. Again, that helps to keep the cost down. But aside from often being cheaper than similar round-trip itineraries, something that often makes these journeys a better value is that you often get more for your money as well. Repositioning cruises tend to be slightly longer than round-trip itineraries, and you often get more port visits and more variety of ports to make for a much better value holiday that I love to do. So all that remains to be said is thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my top 10 reasons why I prefer repositioning cruises over round-trip journeys, and see you next time.